So to summarize this, I have one short little segment after this, but to summarize what I've just done so far, children are helping at about 14 months, and there's some rootedness in the same behavior in apes. They're informing others helpfully by 12 months of age, and only they are doing that. And tomorrow I'll try to explain why it is that even though apes can have the motive to be helpful when they don't have food involved, they don't have the capabilities or motives for informing others. And sharing, it's kind of hard to say. I mean, human infants share stuff all the time, but it may be very well that they don't care that much about it. So I'm not sure what to put an age on where infants share valuable things. But in any case, humans share valuable resources quite a bit more than other apes. And now to sort of fill out the last part of the story, just very briefly, about 5 minutes here, later development. So this is the kind of second half of the Rousseauian story, that we start out sort of a little bit naturally helpful, but then all the computer models will show you that if you're helpful indiscriminately toward everybody, at some point you get taken advantage of. All the other kids in the class are saying, hey, he's giving away his lunch, you know, and we all get, and then you're going to go hungry and you're not going to be leaving many offspring if you're giving away everything all the time. So we have to be more strategic. We have to look out for our own self-interests also, and if we aren't doing that, then again, we might be very nice and they might build a statue to us, but we won't be leaving many babies. And that's what counts in evolution. All right? And so children have to become more strategic and selective. And then secondly, and so that pulls a little bit in the direction, I won't say selfish, but it pulls in the direction of being strategic. That is, of being more concerned about yourself. But then there's a countervailing pull from the culture that is modeling of social norms, instructions, you should share, you should do this, here's how we do it here, be nice to your friends, share your toys, etc. So now we have a pro-social pull from the culture and an individualistic pull from me trying to be discriminating about who I'm going to sacrifice for and under what conditions, etc. And we have these two countervailing pulls that go after this kind of initial stage where infants are being sort of indiscriminately altruistic, I would say. And this makes some evolutionary sense if you think about it. And so this transition that I'm talking about here is, let's just say again something like I was saying yesterday, 3 years old seems to be a pretty nice transition. 3 years old is roughly the kind of average age where children get weaned in traditional cultures. So until you're weaned, you're with mom all the time. You're not really making friends. When you see these little kids bending down and picking this up and handing it to the adult, I don't think they're worried about their reputation. I don't think they're sexual signaling. I don't think they're looking for reciprocity from the adult. None of those primary mechanisms are what are driving the kids. But they have to kick in at some point where you're accounting for those. And so I think after this period where you're under the parent's care, you're not a real person when you're still with mom and weaning. You're not making your own relationships. You're not getting exploited. Mom's making sure that nobody's taking advantage of you. But at 3 years old, at weaning age, now you're out on your own. You have to be careful that people are going to lie to you and take advantage of you and stuff. So now what Dan Sperber calls epistemic vigilance, you have to start worrying about these things. Now you're becoming a real person on your own, making your own relationships, worrying about your own reputation. Now that has to kick in. So I think there's a kind of an evolutionary ontogenetic story here of why they're sort of indiscriminately altruistic early on, and then they have to become more discriminating. So we have various studies from our lab, some of them ongoing, about children being selective and who they cooperate with. There's a well-known study by Spelke and, what's her name? O'Connell and Spelke. Sorry, Olson and Spelke. Thank you very much. Olson and Spelke, where they're sharing more with people who are also sharing their things, so they're nicer to nice people. We have something like that as well, where they share with the nice person more than they share with the not so nice person. So they are becoming more selective, and that's we don't really have a good bead on exactly when or how that happens under what conditions, but various labs are studying that now more than we have before. And so now let me just briefly say a quick thing about the other side. This is about the pro-social side, the social norm side. I'm going to show you. We have 3-year-olds who start beginning, and I think this is critically important. They are not only just following social norms of being nice, but they start enforcing moral norms for being nice. And I talked about that yesterday, but here's one where this little puppet is going to tear up the drawing of the person outside the room. And what's important is that this is third person. So it's not moral things they're not moral if they just apply to me, that I don't like it. Moral means they apply to everybody. So these third-person judgments, the child is not being affected at all. So it's no skin off of her teeth or his teeth. He doesn't. It's nothing about him.
Die Blume von dem Elefanten, die mag ich überhaupt nicht.
Doch.
Ich zerreiße die jetzt.
Nein. Ich mache.
So he's trying to tell her not to do it, and now you might say that he likes it, but then she tattles. The kid tattles to the adult when she comes in.
Aber sie dann traurig.
She's going to be sad.
Weiter, dass die kaputt gemacht.
Kaputt gemacht. Okay, she made it kaputt. Okay, so they try to intervene and stop the person from causing the harm, and they tattle to the other person when he comes in. I'm going to show you one more tattling. I think tattling, there's only one study in the literature, one systematic study in the literature of tattling. I think tattling is phenomenally interesting as a transition to real social norms, because the kids themselves feel a little bit worried about enforcing the social norm because they're not very powerful and they're not very whatever. And so what do? They go get the norm enforcer. And so this is actually a little rule game. So this is not about a moral thing. This is just a conformity, a conventional norm. This is about a game with rules.
Die Hose ist richtig.
So the puppet is going to play the game, but then he's going to break the rules. No, he's breaking the rules.
Ich werde noch mal dachsen. Achtung, ich werde noch mal dachsen.
And then he's going to tattle to the other experiment.
Der Schuh.
Der hat geschummelt.
He cheated. And he's telling that to her.
Der hat geschummelt, dieser Elefant.
Darf ich jetzt noch mal dachsen?
Ja.
Darf ich dachsen?
Der Elefant hat geschummelt.
Okay. Now, somebody asked me one time, "Is this rule following? Is this only German children?" But no, but no, we don't know that for sure. But we don't think that's true. But okay, so again, this one of the key elements that children have to get to have truly moral rules is it's not whether I like it or not. It's not whether it affects me or not. These are transpersonal rules, and that's what we're seeing here, the children enforcing these. Okay, so to conclude, I think you can think about human ontogeny as if you look at computer models of cooperation going all the way back to Axelrod's famous book, where people have these computer models. One of the strategies that wins is so-called tit for tat. And tit for tat is that if we're having some cooperative thing, I start out cooperative, and then if somebody tries to cheat on me, if they cheat on me in one round, then I do what they did the next round, and I don't cooperate with them anymore. So they don't cooperate with me, I don't cooperate with them. But I start out expecting cooperation and cooperating. And I think we can think of a kind of an ontogenetic tit for tat. Children start out cooperative, but then they become more selective. So they start out with indiscriminate altruism at a very young age while they're under parental supervision and they don't have to worry about getting taken advantage of and whatnot. Then they become strategically selective and start worrying about what people are going to think about them and stuff if they're not cooperative, and they get more strategic in it and making judgments about who they should be helpful to and not. And finally, they are not only following the social norms for being pro-social, but they've bought into them so much that they not only follow them, but they actually enforce them on others. And of course, as we know, at a little bit later stage, we're not sure about exactly what age, they internalize these into guilt and shame, where instead of judging others by these norms, they judge their self by these norms, and they feel bad when they break them and when they're pro-social in various ways. And these are going to be some of the norms that really work to keep people cooperative. So as John and I were talking about earlier today, so here we have human beings who have a natural tendency at some level to be cooperative and helpful when it's low cost. We have We have people who reciprocate more if we are that way. We have norms telling us we should be that way. We have God telling us we should be that way. And still we cheat with some regularity. So being cooperative is really hard. Thank you very much.